GMFCS. So it is very easy to relate our goals when we classify the child as per the GMFCS level. So if we find that in level 1 the child is walking independently, speed, balance and coordination are only reduced. So what we want to first of all look into this is we want to diminish the energy expenditure. Now what is energy expenditure? Is the amount of energy that we spend when we do a particular activity. So now when we are doing a particular activity, if I'm, for example, I am walking say 5 kilometers and I am utilizing for just a rough example 2000 calories. So and if a sports person is there and if he is supposed to walk for 5 kilometers, he'll just utilize say 500 calories. So of course, whenever a comparison is being made, I'm spending much more energy than I should be making use of it in a simple task. That is known as energy expenditure. So the child is walking independently, which is very good, but now the speed, balance, and coordination is reduced. So we would like to train him in a way so that the energy which is spending on other tasks during activity or of walking is reduced, which will help in turn in improving the balance. The second is decreased level of support. Okay, if a child is utilizing, say, a cane and he is walking, a stick or he is walking, so we would like to see to it that he is not using any of those assisted devices and he is able to walk without any of them. Improve appearance. Of course, when you walk with a stick and when you walk independently, you feel that you are more confident. Okay, so the child is already independent. Why not give him that help? So our task would be towards that. When the second level is we walks without assistive devices, but limitation is present. Limitation in what? Limitation that in a sense that he may not be able to cross over the barriers, or he may need some supervision, or he may feel threatened when some unexpected community walking. In community walking, what happens? Anyone from anywhere can come. All right. So that also gets diminished. So again, our energy expenditure has to be reduced. We have to decrease the level of support, and again we have to improve the appearance because an anxious child will not be able to traverse in the community with a good confidence. Okay, or for example, he is going to the school. He may not be feeling very happy when he is scared that okay, from anywhere someone will dash into him and he may fall. The third level is when he walks with assistive devices. When he walks with assistive devices, we know that he may not be able to do walking without using them. So that assistive device is definitely going to be there. But with assisted device, we should improve the gait which is possible. There may be some abnormalities which may be present even with the assisted devices. We have to reduce it. We have to improve the standing. Why a person will need external support? Only when his balance is threatened. So why not to work on improving the standing balance? The fourth level is reducing gradually transported or uses powered mobility, that is powered wheelchair. Okay, he may be traverse, he for say for example at home he may be confident that he is able to go from one room to another, but in community he may need some assistance. Okay, so there are these different levels. When this is a possibility, we have to decrease the pain which may be associated with overuse of muscles. Whenever you are going to push the wheelchair wheels, our arms are at excessive use. So even if there is some pain or there is some low back pain, our target should be at reducing that pain. And we have to improve the sitting and standing. Because once the person is into sitting posture, there are many abnormal postures that the patient may adopt. We have to reduce that. The fifth is he is severely limited and he is dependent on wheelchair. So there is no other way in which he is going to have any kind of mobility. So our target should be to position him better in a way so that there are no structural deformities while in sitting. We have to reduce the pain and we have to improve the hygiene. Because we are expecting that there are some deformities in the lower limb or in the pelvic area because of prolonged sitting on the wheelchair, and that may hamper the hygiene. Okay. Yeah. So the treatment strategies, again, I'm telling this is just to give you an idea. You can always pick some things from somewhere. It is just like making a salad of it. But otherwise, there is no set protocol which I'm going to discuss. Strength training, deformity control, spasticity management, motor learning, balance and posture control training, sensory regulation. Treadmill training, very important. We are now using it very often. Body weight support, locomotor training, FES, functional electrical stimulation, biofeedback, hippotherapy, a new concept using horses, and aquatic therapy. So in strength training, definitely we know that there is some kind of weakness. So we are supposed to work on the strength of the muscles. We can either select a task specific strengthening. Why? Because just for example, I'm telling you, we make the patient lie down on a couch. We go for strengthening of hip flexors. We strengthen the knee extensors, ankle dorsiflexors, everything we do it. But when the same patient is being asked to walk, okay, the same amount of training that we were expecting, okay, fine, his muscles are strong now, he should be able to walk. But when we go for walking, the patient is not able to walk. Why? Because we didn't train him for walking. This is one example. So, whatever task you are expecting from the patient, train him in that specific task only. Again, depending upon the type of issues that a child has, we can either select the closed chain and the open chain. We all know the benefits and the disadvantages of both of them. Depending upon the condition, the purpose, the goal, we can select them. Core stability. Now we would think about it, are we going to really work on their core? No, definitely we are not going to work with the perspective that we see in the gym, but definitely we need to work on them because that is a fixation point for both the shoulder and the hip. If we are expecting the child to walk, he needs to have a stable pelvis and his lumbar area so that he gets proper fixation of the hip. Circuit training. Circuit training in pediatrics, I would like to say that the child, they really expect us to go for some innovation every time because they do not have that capacity to go for the same exercise every day. So in this, I would like to request that whenever you're planning a treatment, always plan it day wise. That is, on Monday we will be targeting just two joints or these two activities. Tuesday, this will be our focus. Wednesday, this will be our focus. Then again, Thursday can be a repetition of Monday and so on. Because every day, the child may not be able to do all those exercises that you have planned. He may get tired and he is definitely going to get tired. More than 30 minutes and you will expect fatigue. So why not to go for circuit training? Aerobic, very, very important because these are the growing, this is a growing body. A pediatric child is a growing body. He is not a small adult. He is growing. So his aerobic demands increases with age. So you have to go for that training. And there is before or after surgical treatment. We often see that there are many surgical procedures which are being done, specifically in the children who are of more age, and it is like in teenagers, because now after some period of age, we are not expecting any bone growth to happen. Stretching, I would like to say that the passive stretching that we are in the habit of doing, we need to stop it now because the evidence is not supporting the use of stretching. Even if we go on to stretching, believe me, within half an hour, your muscles are going to go back. And we will be wondering that my hands are getting sore, he is crying, and still we are not getting the benefit because it is not working. But sustained stretching of longer duration using orthosis is preferable because, as we can see, AFO, it limits the plantar flexion and provides passive stretching to the plantar plexus. So we can expect that some amount of activity of dorsiflexus can be achieved. In that way, it is good. Now, something that from 4 to 6 years onwards, children start developing mild fixed component of the contracture and may require Botox. Okay, so Botox is, I think it is still preferred in India, and many a times we wait for the child to come to an age where he is able to understand our purpose, what we are trying to achieve from the child. Because a Botox is considered only when after Botox we are expecting a good amount of strengthening program to happen. So we need to have a very, very, very focused parents. We need to have a very cooperative child, and he should be in an aspect that he should be able to cooperate. So this age is critically important. Children from 6 to 8 years develop significant degree of contracture and may require a combination of surgery and Botox and a longer serial casting. Serial casting is what? A cast is being given in the London position of the joint, and maybe it is repeated or it is changed every 2 weeks so as to gain the new range which is possible. In older children from 8 to 12 years, a corrective surgery termed single event or a multi-level surgery is recommended. Deformity control regarding the hip and knee, we are not able to do much, but yes, we are able to get much benefit from AFOs. But KFO is not usually indicated because a fixed knee is not very good being taken up by the child. Twister orthosis. Now there are some orthoses which twist the limb because we always see that there is some anteversion or retroversion deformities which are present in the hip. So these, with the help of flexible tension cable, which are being fixed at the waist or the pelvis, are good to go. Now there are some AFO benefits. We prescribe the AFO, but why are we doing that? Because it prevents plantar flexion, thus it improves the efficiency. Because we saw that there are some true equinus, some apparent equinus, some jump gait deformity, atypical, atypical gaits are there. So it helps in overcoming them. It provides clearance in the swing phase. Why? Because the dorsiflexion will be achieved, the plantar flexion attitude will be gone, so the clearance from the ground will be good. Pre-positioning and terminal swing. As I told you, the position of the foot in terms of the ground is very important. And it lands into any one of them and you are lost. It increases the step length and the walking speed, so our energy expenditure is getting covered up. Improves energy expenditure based on the oxygen consumption. Now, just an example, it may vary from patient to patient, but if the patient is having jump gait, the Botox injections are given to gastrocnemius and hamstrings, and then an AFO is given in correction to that. Apparent equinus, if it is there, solid or a ground reaction AFO will just do the job. No use of any Botox or no surgery because it is apparent. That is, it is not true. Crouch gait. Crouch gait is what we are having all the flexion angles at all the joints. So you need to lengthen the contracted joints and muscles. So lengthening of hamstrings, iliopsoas, rectus femoris, and a ground reaction AFO would be good. Just an example is spastic diplegia in type 1, which is a true equinus, a hinged AFO, that is an AFO which has joints, okay? Or a posterior leaf spring AFO, which is very biomechanically it is very good, is preferred. The same with type 2. With type 3, you will need to go for solid AFO. Type 4 will be handled very nicely with ground reaction, and type 5, because it is a combination, it can have any of the things. Botox. Botox, it is usually preferred in lower limbs because it is being expected that in hemiplegics or diplegics the upper limbs are fairly good and we don't need it. Now, more severe cases we use for medial hamstrings and adductors. Adductors, why? Because we need to have that spreading of the legs. It may be for hygiene or for other purposes. In less severe cases, I have written hamstrings first and then the calf because the hamstrings are preferred first. In hemiplegic, the calves are preferred, that is, they are being targeted first, and then it is being seen that how the calf lengthening has affected the knee joint, and depending on that, the hamstrings are targeted. In diplegic, however, the hamstrings are targeted first and then the calf. So that is how it is being written. In quadriplegic, because we are looking into a wind swap deformity at the lower limbs, the adductors, calf, and hamstrings, all three are given equal priority. Aquatic, believe it or not, in Gujarat at least we have 2 centers, and I think so one is in Delhi. But I think there are many other centers which are possible, which I may not be aware about. It is largely being used in children because there are many benefits. Why? Because we can go for gradual increase in weight bearing. Now, how in water it is possible? So what happens is, from more deeper water, if we gradually reduce the level of water, the weight bearing onto the lower limbs is increased. So initially, you may take the child into deeper waters, in waters which are of very high level. So what happens is, most of the movements are being done by the water, the buoyancy and the hydrostatic pressure and everything will help it. So the child will be able to do it. So now we want to reduce the help from the water. So now we'll go to the shallower waters. So in addition to providing weight relief, buoyancy can also support the movement, which makes it very easier for the child to move. The hydrostatic pressure, it acts as a natural brace, that is, it supports the trunk. So the lower limbs are able to do very good exercise. Viscosity, that is not exactly the thickness, but the difference between the oil and water, I think we all know. It acts as a resistance to movement, meaning to faster the movement, greater the resistance. Okay. We want whenever we are splashing very hardly, the water moves. Okay. So we have to execute more pressure. That is how the viscosity helps or it gives resistance. Even the sensory and the vestibular issues can be handled because when you are in water, there are chances that you will be wobbly or you are being supported by the wings or the flotation devices. So again, this can be covered up. Treadmill, believe it or not, there are pediatric treadmills which are also being manufactured by many of the manufacturers in India also. They control the environmental constraints. Why? Because when the child is walking onto the ground, there are unevenness, there are people who are coming here and there. But when the child is on a treadmill, the speed at which the belt is moving is controlled. There are no barriers which are there are no distractions which are there. So that is a very good starting point for a child to learn walking. It reduces the physical demand of the service providers also like us. Okay, we keep on holding a patient and we ask for the patient to walk. It becomes tiresome at times. So as a replacement, but we need to be there. I'm not saying that you can go away, but definitely it reduces your workload. It provides a consistent training setup. Okay, because there are no distractions as I told you. You have the control to set up the parameters of the treadmill, so it is well controlled. It can be ideal for task-oriented training and target specific training because we want to train walking and we are training walking. Unless I told you that we are strengthening the lower limbs while in supine and then we expect the patient to walk nicely. Okay? Very important is influence of task in therapy. I have seen many a times that at times the child doesn't want to walk. He just comes to you and tells that today no walking. Okay, so now what next? We cannot go on wasting our sessions because the parents are investing and so many other issues are there. So what to do? So we need to find out some variation in that particular task that we are expecting. So why not to go for a walk into the garden? Okay, so now they will go for a. Our purpose is to make the patient walk. He may not be walking in parallel bars. He may need your more support on that day when you are making him walk in a open ground. But that's okay. Compensation. We have to always look for that. We may not, if we want to strengthen the lower limbs in walking, rather than tying the sandbags at the ankle, why not to give him a weighted sack on at the shoulder level? So he'll be lifting it and he'll be walking. Our purpose is to train him with strength. So that modification can be done. Assistive mobility devices can also be used at times. We can change it. We can see what is good. Has he improved to go for a new assistive device? All that is possible. Influence of environment, very, very important when it comes to pediatrics because you won't believe a child is affected by other child's presence also at times. So we need to be very careful when we are doing this. Either we can go for physical context modification. That is, a child is being trained in a specific room on a specific platform, and that's it. That remains permanent for a child. So the child doesn't have to interact with others. He is not ashamed. There are no distractions, so he is fine. At times, you can change it. So that will again takes that is put his distraction as it is to his maximum, and he is supposed to overcome and walk. Again, a good progression. Social context modification. Most of the times, the children they come with their mothers for the therapy session. What happens when instead of mother, the grandmother comes? Believe me, I have seen the difference when there is a different person who is coming along with them. Okay, so these are the also things which are happening. If one aspect today this particular treadmill is not free, you go to the other room and you use other treadmill. The settings are same, everything is same. But just because he is into some other room, he may perform differently. So this is how even the social context modification can help us in changing the environment. I think so. Yeah, the habit planning strategy is just to give you an idea. Again, it's not a thumb rule. Because it is hemiplegic, we expect that there is a weight discrepancy between the two limbs. So we have to promote the weight shift onto the affected side. Now, how we can do it? By making him stand onto different weighing scales, okay, and then see the readings. Of course, onto the one that he will be wearing more weight, there will be more number which is being shown rather than what on. So why not to give him the reference? Let's see. Over here, it is coming 20, but here it is 15. Can we make it 17, 18 or something like that? So then let us think about it. Use of mirror. A child appreciates mirror. Believe me, we adults we refrain from seeing ourselves in mirror, but they are more happy when they see themselves in mirror. So make maximum use of it. You can ask the child to walk in the parallel bar, go to the end of the mirror and put a bindi if she is a girl. She'll like it, believe me. Or if he is a boy, you can go ask him to walk in the parallel bar till the end of the mirror and go give a high five to himself only. He'll be very happy. And in that way, we will be also coming to know that whether there are any asymmetries which are present. If they are there, the child will be able to appreciate because he sees himself. Again, we want that from wide base, the child should go to narrow base because with wide base, many of the affection of the gate parameters will be there. And yes, very important, believe me, video games. Nowadays, even the mobiles, they do the job. So video games, if we are using it, we can ask the patient to stand. Whereas there are some virtual games which are nowadays. I think Nintendo or some games are available in which the child's participation is important. So the child is standing and there is a virtual badminton or some game which is going on and he is supposed to play. So that also gives a good amount of perturbation. The child enjoys and our task is getting done. So a big thank you to all of you. I think so I end my presentation. Now I
Okay.
think I can.
दीपिका,
Yeah, Sunil.
मेरे को तो MPT की याद आ गई है. So okay, there are few questions, कुछ questions हैं.
Yeah,